Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. Joining me today are Jeff Haecker. Tech Mate, Jeff.
Tech Mate, Victor.
And Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Victor.
And today we are discussing the 7th episode of Season 9 of Stargate SG1, Ex Deus Machina. A Jaffa is found dead in Virginia on Earth, leading Teal'c and Colonel Mitchell to investigate on Dakara, where they suspect Garrick's involvement. Meanwhile, Daniel Jackson and Colonel Carter look into the appearance of Alex Jameson, the CFO of Faro Marshall, near the site where the Jaffa was found. They discover that Jameson has been kidnapped and tortured by a Jaffa loyal to Garrick, who are trying to locate Baal, who is now hiding on Earth. Baal, having integrated into human society, declares his intention to live peacefully on Earth while threatening to detonate a Naquadah bomb if disturbed. Colonel Mitchell finally gets the band back together, and SG1 runs around a lot, from Virginia to Seattle to the far side of the moon. Ultimately, the team manages to thwart his plan by beaming the bomb-laden Halcyon Tower into space before it explodes. Baal is seemingly captured and executed by Garrick, but it's later revealed that Baal has been cloning himself, suggesting that the captured Baal might not be the original. The episode concludes with multiple Baal clones in various locations, indicating his continued threat. What did you think of this episode, Lisa? I think I can guess.
Okay, so when we watched Abyss and Baal was torturing Jack, and Baal has never been one of my favorites because of that. But in this episode, I think I finally see why Cliff Simon as Baal has become a fan favorite over the years, because he just has this presence. He's so charismatic as Baal in this. And I think part of it is the not using the Gould voice, using his actual, I think this is the first time we hear his actual real voice. And I loved him. Every time he was on screen and when he pops up doing that press conference on TV while they're hunting him down at the hotel or whatever, like I just grinned. He just had such a way. There's a lot of running around. I love that the band was back together. First time we get true SG1 together without Vala. But a lot of running around. So I kind of my eyes kind of glazed over watching some of it. So I don't remember all the middle details, but I did like the episode. It was enjoyable because it felt like kind of like what we love about Stargate. It just felt like a, episode from several years ago.
Excellent. What did you think of this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. It's great to see Baal. He's kind of becoming kind of a secondary antagonist, kind of a frenemy to Earth. You hate him because he's a Gould, but you also kind of, whenever he's on screen, you just, you're gonna have fun watching. Maybe aside from Abyss when he's torturing Jack, but I think it kind of started in the episode Reckoning in season 8 when he's kind of having the back and forth with Jacob and the Toker, I can't remember his name, Selmac. The back and forth with Selmac about fixing the Dakar device. So kind of starts there, and this really kind of puts it into high gear. And you get to see some Jaffa politics, which is always usually pretty fun and interesting to see. And it's kind of setting up more stuff for the later season. But it was great kind of this is kind of the first getting getting the band back together, but it's kind of the prologue of the season and really the rest of the show. So it's kind of we have all the pieces back in place, and and we're going to see where it goes from here. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I like this episode too. As you said, it really does feel like classic SG1. We have the dream team here of writer Joe Malazzi and director Martin Wood. Of course, Martin Wood has been working on the show since the very beginning, so very familiar with the SG1 DNA, and so I think that helps to explain some of that classic feeling there. Really like Baal in this episode. I like his devious machinations, as well as the devious machinations in the Jaffa council room there. So we get some good Prometheus action too in space. I love the shot of the mothership, behind the moon, and you're just yelling at the screen like, "Get away from our moon! That's our moon!" And I like the dual twist endings here, with the beaming up of the entire building as well as the reveal of the multiple Baal clones. It's very well done, and I especially like Baal's polo shirt that has a little
Yes.
Baal insignia on it. That was
I
really
didn't
cool.
even
They should
notice
sell
that.
those. Yeah,
That was cool.
yeah, they should sell those in the gift shop or the Stargate website there. So yeah, very very nice. And so it's a very good episode. Interestingly enough, although this is one of the Earthbound episodes, it actually wasn't originally pitched or written to take place on Earth. They had Baal set up on a base on a distant planet somewhere, but because they had spent so much of the season's budget on Avalon and Origin, they had to set it on Earth. But I think it really works that way.
Mhm. Yeah, if it had been another, medieval village, it just wouldn't have had the same punch as it did that Baal and then his clones are all hiding out on Earth somewhere. And, seeing Baal in a suit and tie and a kind of a flashy suit and tie and stuff, it was, I don't know, it just, for me, it really made the episode to have him on Earth.
Yeah, and that was actually one of Joseph Malazzi's initial pitches for this. Was Baal in a 3-piece suit. And so I like that we get that, and it's kind of set up too in the teaser, the intro for this episode, where we see a Jaffa running through the forest, and you're like, oh, what planet is he on that looks just like Vancouver? And all of a sudden he runs out. You hear tires squeal, and a couple guys in a car like run into him and go bonk, and you're like, oh wow, what was he doing on Earth? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like you say, Lisa, they quickly kind of mire it in, this guy who works for this company that does work in Virginia, and he's their CFO, but he's been missing for a day, and suddenly that's national news. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and they are, all over the place, but I think it works.
Yeah. And I really like the idea of Garrick sent Jaffa to Earth. And they're just like the fight in the office with the cubes and stuff. Like, there's Jaffa on Earth chasing a Gould. I mean, that's crazy, but it's kind of fun. We haven't done that before. Random ones that we didn't know about,
Yeah, the office shootout was just funny. And you have the one guy, of course, who's working late, and he's like he's just hiding under his desk, and we're working.
That scene was originally a little different. It was much longer with that guy. They cut to me like, we're spending way too much screen time on this like random office worker for this episode. And originally his scene was much longer. He was like, talking. He's like, yeah, I can't come home. I have to work late. And then he's playing video poker on his computer there. Originally he was going to be searching a disreputable site of some sort, but so I'm kind of glad he's just playing poker. But yeah, and then suddenly there is that office building shootout, which is kind of prefaced with this awesome shot of the cargo ship decloaking and landing on top of the office building, which is an excellent shot as well. Yeah.
And we learned that staff weapons and bullets don't go through cube walls, which that's amazing.
Yeah. he used his that office worker used his like plucky comic, side character skill to avoid being shot, I guess. Yeah. So that's one shootout we get. We don't get to see the second shootout of the episode, which is after they launch the Trust, Gould killing chemical weapon. There actually is this huge shootout between the Trust, the human Trust members later on, and the Jaffa, and we don't see any of this. They were originally going to show a scene of Daniel Jackson like arriving and just seeing like dead Jaffa and people everywhere, and like that would have sold kind of the gravity of the situation, but they just didn't have time to film that. But what they did have time to film was a lot of scenes of Jaffa Council intrigue on Dakara, with some familiar faces there as well.
Yeah, I think for this episode, for me, between the Trust, which always gets a little nebulous, like you said, it starts out with a businessman goes missing, and then there's other trust people. It's like this weird, connections, right? And then you have all of the Jaffa council intrigue. It's just, and then you got all the shootouts. It was very like, you had to pay attention to figure out what was going on, which is good and bad, because there are a few times I was like, wait, I blanked. What did I miss?
It's like we're in Virginia, then we're in Seattle, and then we're in space on the Prometheus. Yeah, there is a lot. There is a lot going on here. And it was a conscious choice to have Cliff Simon not speak with the Gould voice.
Mm.
And I think it was, when they did the previous episode, we saw, with Maury Chaykin as Nerus, I think he was the first Gould we saw speak for an extended period of time with his human voice, just because it would have been too distracting. And so I'm glad they maintained that here as well. And it also kind of sells that, like, the people who are in Baal's immediate orbit, do they know he's a Gould? Do they not? Obviously, Charlotte Mayfield, who's kind of his Girl Friday right-hand, person there, she obviously knows he's a Gould because he does the little glowy eye thing, which I don't know if Gould can control that or if they just, because sometimes it looks like if you just look at an infrared camera, you'll see the glowy eyes, but other times it seems like they can do it just kind of as a punctuation mark if they say something truly diabolical. But
I like to think they can. It's just their little way to put a little pizzazz on anything when they're angry.
Yeah.
They can just kind of do it. Yeah, and we'll see her again too, and we'll find out more about her in future episodes. I won't spoil that here, but yeah, it was, and it's kind of matching that early 2000s like businessman is the bad guy kind of thing that was happening in a lot of media. And not that that's been something, but I think that was kind of a trend in that time of, you moved on from like scientists are evil from like the 80s and 90s, and you're kind of like, now businessmen are evil, and and so that was kind of it was just interesting seeing a Gould being crafty in that way of like, instead of trying to conquer a world through military might and fear and whatnot, that kind of could have been an interesting idea if they try to do like where he does try to take over the world as like a businessman or a politician or something. But obviously it doesn't go that way on this, because Landry says, we can't let a Gould, run around Earth as his own personal playground. So, because he threatened Baal, of course, says, y'all leave me alone, or I'm going to, I've hidden in Naquit a bomb and I'm going to blow it up if you don't leave me alone. So
I like how his idea of like being left alone is, let me go public as like one of the world's most flashy businessmen,
I love that though, because that just screams like the hubris or the attention seeking of a Gould, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. One interesting production note is there's a lot of people talking to screens in this episode. They're talking to Baal while he's even doing like a video message. They're on the Prometheus talking to Yetir on the Gould mothership. They're talking to, from the SGC to Carter, and we'll talk to speak of who she's with. But all of these, they're actually doing those video conversations live. Like the actors are, in another room in the same studio, doing so the video feeds are all live, and the actors are actually interacting with each other. And that's something they tried to do a lot more of in this season, rather than have people try and talk to playback, which is always a little iffy.
Yeah. More like they're on their own Zoom calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Or StreamYard.
StreamYard, yes. Don't forget to hit record if you otherwise you'll have to do the episode over again.
It was just Groundhog's Day. We're in a time loop.
Yeah, not even window of opportunity here. But yeah, so Carter gets to go on a stakeout in the van. We love our van stakeouts. And she's with an old friend.
She gets to meet her old friend, Agent Barrett, which was so fun. Because, you're looking at it, you're like, was he a Carter boyfriend? No, but he wanted to be. I mean, he's not a boyfriend because he's still alive, but he wanted to be her boyfriend. And I love the way he asked, like, he's kept up with her because he knows about Pete. So,
yes.
Yeah. So he's like, how's Pete? And then she's got to tell him. And then he's like, so you're single? And she
Yeah.
So
says,
you're telling
"Not
me there's a
exactly."
chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say, like, I'm not single, but she doesn't say I am single. So she's not exactly, which those of us all are the, Sam Jack shippers from the 90s, 2000s, that's just confirmation that Sam and Jack were together now. That was
Yeah.
yay.
And Joseph Malazzi on the commentary said he intentionally left that a little ambiguous, but of course he meant that Sam was with Jack, but you don't know exactly, what the status of their relationship is.
Yeah.
It would have been, it's complicated on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then she says to, it's like, oh, are you with Pete? And she's like, no, we broke up. It was better for both of us. I'm like, it wasn't better for Pete. Like, he bought a house. Now he has a house to sell.
She should have been like, it was better for both of us, meaning the person I'm with now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not for Pete. Of course, who knows? Maybe Pete has already found another woman. I mean,
That's true. He does
he
have that
does
smile.
have Sam's brother, like, helping him out, wingman, helping him find people. So,
Yeah.
you never know.
He's got that Deloise charm.
Yeah.
Turns that on whenever he wants. And I do like this scene too in the van, because we get to hear a little bit more about what Sam's been up to since she hasn't been on the show, or in the SGC, I should say. So that was nice too. A little recap.
And mentioning Cassie, because
Yes,
we haven't heard anything about Cassie since Janet died. So it was kind of nice that we don't get to see her, but at least they mentioned she exists and how she's doing. So that was nice.
yeah, and she's spent some time on the Prometheus. She's been working at Area 51, so she's kept pretty busy.
Mm-hmm. But she's back now. She is officially back and part of SG1. And we get a cute scene of Cameron Mitchell ripping off their patches on their arms and slamming the new SG1 patch on their arms, which was really nice of the four of them together.
Yeah, and I like how all of them play it in this scene too. Jackson's been around, so he's just like, oh, okay, we're making this official. Sam's like, all right, I'll join. And then there's a cool scene where Teal'c has to, think it over for a moment. You can tell the wheels are kind of turning, but then based on things we'll discuss in a minute about what's going on Dakara, agrees to join. And then, of course, way in the background, you see Landry smiling and kind of nodding in his approval. And Ben Browder just plays this scene so well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're on episode 7 of the season. Is that right?
Yep.
And we finally have our team. First episode, our team is together without Vala or anyone else. So I feel like, Jeff, you had said that the first part of the season had been like the prologue for the season, and now we're kind of hitting the ground running.
Yeah, because we have a few more kind of episode of or kind of like Planet of the Week or kind of Adventure of the Week kind of things that don't play into the Ori stuff as much. There's a little bit of reference to it, but at least next week, it's also kind of let's go off on an adventure, and it's kind of getting back to the original kind of what the show was, but of course not losing sight of kind of the overall arc. And of course, it'll go in the mid-season. It'll in the in 10 and 11, it'll kind of bring that back into the main focus of the storyline. But you get that setup here of everyone's kind of getting back together and getting the band back together so they can go off and fight off the Ori or whatever they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Save the world.
Fight the Jaffa.
Yeah, fight the Jaffa, because one of the things we do see early on in this episode is Teal'c back on Dakara addressing the Jaffa Council, and then Colonel Mitchell tries to address the Jaffa Council, and that doesn't go as well.
No, that was great. I loved Christopher Judge's face when what does he just throw out his arm to stop him?
Yeah, strangers are not permitted to address the council.
That was great.
Yeah.
And Teal'c has a lot of talking in this episode.
He does. I think it's probably more than he talks in season 2 combined, just in this one episode.
Yeah. One of my kids mentioned it. They were like, he's not just saying, his usual indeed and all that. He's like actually has real words, that he's using this time around. So it was kind of nice. It was refreshing.
Yeah, because in the council, Garak is played by Lou Gossett Jr., who I guess he came in to do this episode, and you can tell in his first scene he's visibly sweating underneath the hot robes, and actually had a medical situation. Actually had to go to the hospital for a couple of days, and so they shot around him, used body doubles, and then when he came back, they did the rest of his scenes. But he's talking about refusing to work with the Tok'ra, who we unfortunately don't see in this episode. I don't know if you see them for a while or again, but yeah. So things are not going Earth's way or any of the Allies' way in the Jaffa Council there.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this, that Teal'c should be in our eyes at least the rightful leader of the Jaffa people, because he was the one, he and Braytak really got this movement going, to stand up to the Goa'uld and free the Jaffa, and spent so much of their time and risked their lives over and over again to make it happen, but yet he's not. So I think it's interesting that they chose that. I think it was the right thing to do, make SG1 as a show, but to watch Garak kind of solidify his power and having to do that, and the council members, you just don't know where they all stand. And we see one of them, I forgot the woman's name, the female. Yeah, where she's filling Teal'c in on oh, by the way, Baal's on Earth and this and that, and we're sending Jaffa, and so she's filling him in. So she obviously has some loyalty to him, but then in the end, it doesn't really play out like that for him.
No, and I remember watching this originally when it aired 20 years ago and just being so mad at the Jaffa for betraying Teal'c and using him in that way to get to Baal, because it is, they are kind of on our home turf, and that's been kind of the one rule in SG1. Earth has to be kept safe. We can't have Jaffa and Goa'uld running around on our planet or behind our moon. So I'm still mad about that.
Think about it. Replicators, Goa'uld, Jaffa. It's very rare that we see any of them. We're always going somewhere else to fight them. So it was kind of cool, though. It was cool.
It was, and we do get some idea of what Baal's been doing on Earth, because the office building where he says, I put a bomb in this building, and they're searching for it. They're using their Naquadah detectors, but they're not getting any definite readings. And eventually they conclude it's because Naquadah has been built into the building's superstructure, and the building itself is a bomb. So they do say, oh, it was just built a few months ago, but it's pretty good foresight on Baal's part.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a pretty good reveal, that the building is the bomb, or they say the bomb is the building. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and then their solution I really like as well. They just, with seconds left on the clock, they just beam it up into space, and you get to see this office building floating in space before it explodes. And so that was really nice. It's good to know the Asgard transporters can still do that.
Yeah, then you've got a city block in Seattle that's just...
Yeah.
Hopefully no one was looking that way and saw this thing disappear.
And they evacuated, and some of the buildings were taller around it, but we do get to see Julia Donovan, our favorite reporter, again, kind of saying, yes, the basic, cover up. They dumped some rubble on the site and said, oh, the building fell down, and already in the news, they're speculating that there's not enough rubble to, account for the mass of the building and stuff. And so there's probably some Halcyon Tower truthers out there or something that are...
That's a whole conspiracy thery waiting to happen, right?
Yeah, in this case, though,
it's true.
It was aliens, or alien technology, at least. So yeah, it was good. Yeah, lots of good, callbacks. And I think the previously on for this was, if it wasn't one of the longer ones, at least covered a lot of ground. You're like, oh, it's the trust, and now we're here, and now we're talking about this and stuff. So,
and it's been a while since we had the trust, right? I feel like so much has happened, and it did take me a minute to kind of ramp back up. Where do we stand on the trust? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So it was nice to see Agent Barrett because he was the one that I think they worked with most recently on it. But usually Major Davis was always involved in those episodes, I want to say.
Well, he's the Pentagon liaison, right?
Oh.
So yeah, I think he may have been in some. I don't remember him. Maybe he was in all of them, but yeah, Agent Barrett was more the antitrust guy that would come and
Yeah.
come and
Because it was
come
the
and help them out.
NID, remember? And then it switched to
Yeah.
the trust. And then, so it got a little confusing. But I like
it. Yeah, especially when you're like, okay, the trust developed this weapon, then they went off into space, and then we stopped them, and then the Gould found their ship, and then the Gould took over the trust, and so you're wondering, it's like, do the people who work in the trust know that the Gould are Goulds? You know how like, and then it's the trust still have access basically to SGC's communications because they know what's going on, and Baal knows what's going on when they when they say they're going to launch the symbiote poison against Baal's location. So there is a lot going on, in this episode, but I think they do a pretty good job, making it clear.
You can't say this episode was slow.
No.
This was definitely a blink and you missed something.
Yeah. And I do like it, they realize they need to go to Seattle, and Sam's standing in the surveillance van, and it's like, how are you gonna get to Seattle? And she just props herself up and beams over there with Prometheus's help. And Daniel says it beats flying coach. And I do like that when she beams down, her hand's in the same position that it was when she beamed out. So that was nice. I don't know that it was a good episode. I like it.
Yeah, if you think about it, the last time we had a Gould that was hiding on Earth that I remember was Seth.
Yep.
So, and he was a cult leader. So I like this one, businessman trying to take over everything, and it automatically gets power and, authority and people around him to do his bidding. And I think that just says a lot for the Gould. It's funny though, we think back to like first season. I remember because Jack had never seen Stargate before.
That's right. Yeah.
He was like, they're pretty one note. They're just like, what's their motivation? They're just, ha ha ha, I'm an evil bad guy, with the crazy clothes and the, over the topness. And so I like this. I like that they just keep making them, we see the differentiation. We get to see Baal. Baal has purpose in what he's doing.
Yeah. Cool. Any final thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, it was a fun one. Yeah, I mean, can't say enough about Baal. He was, it was just fun to see him, and this is he's the bad guy still. He's not going away. He's kind of in some ways the ultimate bad guy for Stargate, but yeah, it's still so much fun just to see him running around, and you get a nice little end scene of them having a little cocktail party in a lounge, and all the clones, and the one is just like, I'm going to retire. We have a lot of work to do, or whatever he says, or it's going to be, we have a big day ahead of us, I think is what he says. Yeah. So, and it'll be fun to see what's next.
Yeah, that was a great scene.
Gold, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten, and I read it online, so I don't remember this from 20 years ago. But Sci-Fi Channel was notorious for like spilling the beans, like spoiling the episode for us. And if I remember correctly, and I read a little bit about it, that they're like coming up on Stargate, had this scene of all of the balls. So the very last scene was in there.
Oh, really?
On the next episode. Yeah.
Oh,
so it
man.
ruined it. And they've done that a few times, over the course of the season. That I remember because the showrunners, I mean, they didn't have any control over how Sci-Fi Channel chose to promote it. And so they spoiled it right out of the gate, which got us to watch, though.
They make a reference to that in 200 where, a character shows up and they're like, wow, we didn't see that coming. And Carter says, oh, are you kidding? They'll put that in the commercial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Sci-Fi Channel did that a lot. Spoil things. Of course, it could be like, I was about to ask you about the foreign titles, because it's a lot like that. Remember, we've had a few of like German titles where they give you the random character's name or kind of tell you what's going to happen in their title. So any good ones this time?
Yeah, and I didn't practice these beforehand, unfortunately. So this will be great. In French, we get Terre d'Asile, or the land of asylum, which is Earth. In Italian, this does kind of go away. La molte vita di Baal, the several lives of Baal. In Spanish, we get El Dios clonado, the cloned god. So again, and then in Japanese, Imosoku ni aru kiken, which is clear and present danger. So that's a nice one there.
That works too.
Yeah. And we do have some feedback on our episode 194, Condemned. I think we said that was an Atlantis episode, that it was, kind of middle of the road, kind of boring. Mark Gillies, 1970 on YouTube says, boring beats bad. So
he's right.
I think that's true, unless you have to do a podcast on it, in which case bad is kind of easier to
if you remember,
about.
I liked that episode.
That's right.
You did not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All right. We'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Stargate, including Zipper T, Tim S, Christopher H, Kevin B, and Lisa R. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia or on Spotify. And to find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X @SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of Stargate Atlantis, Instinct. Until then, Jeff Haecker, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Victor.
And Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest, and Colonel Pendergast, plot a course for the far side of the moon. I love that line.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?